Kill it till love. This is love when I wanna get another one. I go take and do it in I love. Waiting you love, oh. No be waiting I love, oh. Waiting I love, I go do what with all my heart, oh. Go no be vodka. Mr. Money Changer. But when I know the ways that Mr.
You let a yum 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 yum. Nayela pere, matinayela pese. You let a yum 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 yum. Nayela pere, muna kapela, chora kakisa, bayari hela pere, balungana baire, tupa ani, imping tuma, masanta tapage, bayu tugitele, masankele yura, babantu hiyara, bayari hela pere, bongana baire, tupa ani, asikul tuma, ikina kine, ukile sikul kine, titatia, undidle sikul gatia. Satasua, zadla sikruga sua. Korakua, kole sikruga kua. Sarasua, sole sikruga sua. Tinayela peri. Kapere, chora kakisa. Bihari hala peri, bong na baire. Tupa ani, sikruga tuma. Tupa ani, sikruga tuma.
As gold productions boomed in Ghana, illegal mines have sprung up along most of its rivers. Earth is mixed in the water, making it untreatable. Miners use mercury to separate the gold. Once mercury's in the water, it's nearly impossible to remove it. Downstream, Ajuwa Menu depends on river water for cooking, drinking and washing, as do most of the people living in the countryside.
Our children often fall sick. Many people are dying these days, and we strongly believe it's the water. The river was our source of clean drinking water until the mining started here. What can we do? The police come and chase the miners away, but they always come back.
Dr. Elliot Tanor says mercury from the mines is killing people. He says the number of patients coming to this hospital in Ashanti region with kidney disease has tripled in the last 10 years, and about a third of them can't afford dialysis, so they die.
This mercury is something that we know that definitely affects the brain, it affects the liver, and it affects the kidney. So we are worried because we tend to see a lot of patients coming from mining areas with all forms of kidney disease. So we know definitely that there is some link.
Ghana's main water provider says the pollution's become so bad it's having to switch off treatment plants because they can't make the water clean. There are abundant natural water resources here, but they're becoming unusable.
If all these things are to continue the way it is, in addition to climate change, we may have most of the rivers in our country may go extinct, and then we may have to be importing water into the system.
Researchers say the government urgently needs to enforce environmental laws to stop illegal mining and clean up the rivers. The health of tens of millions of Ghanaians may depend on it. Malcolm Webb, Al Jazeera.
A zoo in Mexico has...
Well, good afternoon and welcome to Political Justice. As you have seen in that report, we're going to talk extensively today about the issue of Galamsey. We spoke about it last week, but given the importance of this issue, we are here again to talk about it. And luckily today, we have an expert in our midst in the person of Dr. Francis Xavier Troku. He is a PhD in environmental science and environmental studies. He currently works with a big environmental organization in the United States, but He's here in his personal capacity today. He's not. Any views that he expresses today are based on his expert knowledge, having studied all issues related to the environment and having done extensive research on the issue of galamsey. So his views today represent his views and not those of the organization that he currently works for. So, Dr. Francis, you are welcome.
Thank you very much. It's good to be on your show.
All right. So, with my usual more politically oriented guests, Dr. Ni Okai, an assistant professor of actuarial science at Appalachian State University in North Carolina. And then joining us today from the UK is Fifi Asante, who is the Deputy Communications Officer of the NDC UK Ireland chapter. So, gentlemen, you're all welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
so I think Fee may be having some challenges with his video, but once he gets that sorted, we will be ready to go. But anyway, going back to our main topics, we're going to be talking about the issue of galamsey, and then from there we transition into some of the issues that have arisen in the political campaigns. We're in a campaign season. The various political parties actually, officially went to the EC to be nominated as, or to submit their nominations form to run as president, and the members of parliament also submitted their nomination forms to run as members of parliament for their constituencies. And so we've seen certain conversations that have gone on in the in the campaign trails, and then we will pick on some of the topical issues and discuss them as well. But let's go straight up to the issue of galamsey. Now, I'm going to play another video here, which is sort of an aerial report of the state of the major rivers in Ghana. And these major rivers are the source of drinking water to almost everyone in Ghana, right? Let's see what's going on in the state of our river.
Stand here so that I'll be like I'm on CNN, and I'm showing you, how the condition is as of now. Now. We are not. This one is not somebody who has gone to take anything and is edited. We are using Google. Okay, so this is the aerial view of Ofin. Now go to the next place. This is Ankobra. Currently, the state of Ankobra. This is how Ankobra looks. So you see, this is the only part that you see clear water. Here. So if you take a look at everything, it's just here. These are the only parts. We move on to the next. This is River Pra. This is how bad it is. So even when you look at River Pra, from almost the whole thing, I don't see even any clean water around River Pra. We go on to the next. Okay, so this is Tano. Maybe I should, let me try and see. Okay, so this is Tano. So this is how Tano is looking. Check it out. This is River Tano. As of now, I'm not talking about a year ago. I'm talking about this morning. Now, 7:16 a.m. Take a look. 7:16 a.m. All right. So we go to Asaman Tamfu. Let me open this part for you to see. Can you see it well? This is our river body, Asaman Tamfu. This is the condition of Asaman Tamfu River. Let's go to the next. Osino Galamsey. This is it. So this morning, we are showing you everything. All the brown places that you see, take a look at this. This is our river. So this is the next, we are going to the next place. Accra Kumasi Road. So now we come to Accra Kumasi Road. Just by the road. When I was young and we used to travel on this road, it was a forest reserve.
Absolutely.
This place was a forest reserve. So this is it. The whole of this place was a forest reserve. Take a look. So when it used to be a forest reserve, it's no more a forest reserve. So sad. You see the road? This is the road that we ply on when we are going to either Accra or to Kumasi. And next to where we are driving, this is the body. And these places were forest reserves. We move on. This is Yao Kasakrom DA Government School. Let me close this. Okay. So Yao Kasakrom DA Government School. Okay. Let me try and go to the next. So this is Ghana Water Company Limited in Akimoda. And yes. So you go to Ghana Water Company. This is the sad reality. They are supposed to be giving us water. And this is why they are complaining. Take a look at this. Galamsey happening just next to Ghana Water Company Limited in Akimoda. Can you see? This is it. Let me close this one for you to see. I want you to see very well. You see? And this is Ghana Water. This is Ghana Water. And see. This is how bad it is. This morning, I want you to see everything that is happening. We are not speaking against any government, but we are taking a look at election year and what campaign promises are being said and why we are not seeing clear water body.
All right. So, guys, let me bring in Francis here. You are an expert in this matter. Given what you have seen, what would you say should be the decisive thing to do by the government of the day?
All right, thank you very much. So before I answer your question, let me give a brief background to put the issue in proper context. Okay. All mining activities, regardless of its scope and size, cause harm to the environment. So whether large scale or artisanal small scale mining, all mining activities cause harm to the environment. So the issue of Galamsey has to do with enforcement. We are not able to. We have lack of capacity to implement the policies that we have formulated. And that is responsible for the environmental degradation within in many mining communities. But let me also mention that in spite of all the challenges that Galamsey causes to the environment, the sector has the potential to transform the country economically. This is because about 1 million Ghanaians are employed within the artisanal small-scale mining sector. And out of this number, 85% of them are operating illegally. Now, so those who are operating illegally are the Galamsey miners. Now, the sector also contributes 1/3 to Ghana's gold. 1/3 of Ghana's gold comes from the artisanal small-scale mining sector. So like I said, which means that the sector has the potential to contribute to economic development. But because of lack of enforcement of the sector and also lack of formalization of the sector, that is what is responsible for the degradation of the environment. So which means that the way forward is to ensure that we formalize the sector. And by formalization, I mean making sure that miners have the right to mine, miners have the right to land, so they have a title and they have a defined area that they are supposed to mine. So, for instance, the law says that you cannot mine in a forest reserve. And so, if we were to apply the law, miners will not have the opportunity to get into a forest reserve or a water body to mine. So, we have to formalize the sector and give mining license to people who have the requisite knowledge, who have the requisite experience, and to mine in a defined area and not just mine anywhere. Some of those people, mind you, some of those miners who do galamsey have claim BEV right to ownership of lands. The lands they are mining on, they have BEV, they claim BEV right to the ownership of those lands, and so they think that they can just mine, wherever they want to. So apart from formalization, we have to also stop this, radical approach of using the military, to chase away miners, and have a broad stakeholder consultation, to deal with the issues. And by stakeholder consultation, I mean bringing chiefs and opinion leaders, because some of the lands that miners mine on, were given to miners by the chiefs. And so we need to have a broad consultation where the chiefs will be invited or will be involved in the process of consultation. The youth group, women groups, the miners themselves are supposed to be invited to be part of a broad stakeholder consultation, including government regulators. Then we can come to a consensus that this is the way to go about it. If not, the radical militarized approach of solving galamsey will not lead us anywhere. It won't lead us anywhere. So those are my initial thoughts.
Yeah, so Francis, I hear you, but given the current state, it almost feels like I describe it as an attack by aliens. Because you look at all the water bodies, I mean, the Ghana Water Company threatened to even shut down due to the fact that all their systems are polluted. I mean, as you could see from that report, it looks like the water company has diverted some of the water and constructed a dam where it's a supply to their treatment plant. Yeah. And all that diversion has actually been impacted by, the polluted water from the main river that has been polluted by galamsey. It doesn't seem like any river in Ghana is left untouched by the mining activities. So, I mean, what you are prescribing, it's like if we're beginning afresh. But it seems like we've gotten to a point where, look, in my opinion, I think there should be a total ban on galamsey activities in Ghana, just a complete ban, no exceptions at this point. And if it demands that we send all the security forces that we have in that country to enforce that ban, I would stand for it. Because you mentioned all the benefits associated with mining, right? For instance, the fact that it employs up to 1 million people across the country, and also the fact that it's 1/3 of our, gold proceeds. But if you take the external costs, the externalities associated with the mining activity, right? We heard in that report about the kidney failures. We heard in that report about there's so many, like even the hazardous work environment of some of these miners, the lives that have been lost. If you calculate all that, if there was a way to quantify that in monetary terms, then likely we have an actuarial scientist in our midst. If we were to put all that in costs, and then you put all the benefits in costs, I would say that galamsey we are in the negatives. There's no benefit in galamsey. That's my honest opinion, based on the negative impacts. If you want to balance it out, I don't think there's any positive related to mining activities, especially the open pit type of mining. So, yeah.
Yes, thank you. So banning galamsey activities is a top-down bureaucratic measure. And it's within the short term, it is the way to go, but it is not sustainable. You remember in 2017, the government of the day, banned all artisanal small-scale mining activities, whether legal or illegal, also whether legal or galamsey. All activities were banned. But have we achieved, the purpose of that ban? No. So it's a short-term measure, but in the long term, it is not sustainable. So what the government needs to do is to ensure that, of course, they involve the security agencies, involve all stakeholders, involve government regulators. So, for instance, the Water Resources Commission, Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, Minerals Commission, Forestry Services Commission, all of them need to come together to, to deliberate on the issue and see how they are going to, put to regulate the sector. So, and mind you, these government agencies have been empowered to ensure that they apply the law. But what are they doing? Instead of coming together to collaborate, to coordinate, and work together to resolve issues such as, the activities of Galamsey, these agencies are rather engaged in inter-agency competition and infighting. So, for instance, EPA will say, "Oh, they are responsible for the environment, so they should, get budgetary allocation for this." A Minerals Commission will tell you, "Oh, no, they are in charge of all mining activities, so they should have budgetary allocation for regulating mining activities." So, this will not help. So all these institutions need to come together to find solution to the problem and have that national, and we need to also have a national stakeholder dialogue or stakeholder consultation involving the Galamsey themselves. In most times, the Galamsey miners are not involved in the decision-making process. But it's been established that when people come together, especially at the community level, to deliberate on issues that affect them, it leads to ownership of initiatives or the policy. And when people claim ownership of an initiative, the implementation becomes effective. But once they don't claim ownership, they're not involved in the decision-making process, trust me, it will not be effective. So but banning is not sustainable. It's within the short term, it will work, but in the long term, it will not work. Mind you, some of the miners mine at night, right? They mine at night. And they also mine in forest areas that military people do not have the resources to go into. And so
these days we have the benefit of drones. There can be drone surveillance, and once you identify that there's activity going on anywhere, then the security forces can be directed to those places, right? So. But my question to you, I almost lost my thought there. But is there any example? Or are there examples of countries where the type of mining that we do in Ghana, right, the open pit, Galamsey type of mining has been controlled in a sustainable way? Is there any example? Because I just learned that, in fact, El Salvador had a similar problem to us, and they completely banned it. And I don't know of any developed country where there is open pit surface mining that is actually sustainable.
Yeah, so artisanal mining is done across the world, particularly in Africa, Latin America, and Asia. In fact, about 30 million people are involved in the sector. So to give you specific examples, Tanzania, Tanzania is not far from Ghana. Tanzania officials a few years ago were in Ghana to learn about artisanal mining. And they went back to their country and ensured that they formulated laws that will properly regulate the sector and benefit from the sector. Like I said, in spite of all these challenges, 1/3 of our gold comes from the sector, which means the sector really has the potential to contribute to rural livelihoods and the economy of Ghana as a whole. So if Tanzania came to Ghana to learn about how the sector operates and went back to formulate laws, to regulate the sector and is benefiting from the sector, why can't we do that?
My pushback on that is that it takes time. And of course, the evidence demonstrates that Ghana is not the best place to take your lessons from when it comes to this issue. So, really using it as an example of how somebody learned from us and went and implemented policies that are working, when we are actually dealing with the negative impacts of this same thing, I don't get it. But maybe they are beginning. Maybe it's not as widespread as in our case, because we've always had Galamsey, but it wasn't done in the quantity or the quantum that it's been done now, right? And so the impacts weren't as severe as today.
So let me give you the reason. So the first reason is that it's lack of enforcement of the laws. We have the laws. The laws are there. but the inability or lack of capacity to implement the existing laws. That is the main problem. Number two, there's lack of political will to implement the laws.
Yeah.
There are politicians who are involved in the activity, right? But generally, Galamsey is a poverty-driven activity. Many people, there are some schools of thought who think that people are in Galamsey because they want to get rich quick. That is not the reason. Largely, it's a poverty-driven activity. But because politicians have found themselves in their activity, it becomes difficult to regulate the sector. They give licenses to their cronies. They themselves are involved. And so how do you regulate the sector? So that is the challenge we have. It is not that the sector, if well regulated, would not benefit Ghanaians. But if it is well managed, well regulated, and the laws are implemented, trust me, it will contribute largely to economic development. Like I said, large scale mining also contributes to environmental degradation. Yes. Government has given tax exemptions to large scale mining corporations. So, for instance, in 2018, about $259 million was given to a large scale mining company as tax exemptions, and the government believed that for 22 years, and the government believed that within a short period, the company will make profit and contribute about $5.3 billion to Ghana's economy. Why can't we formalize the artisanal small-scale mining sector, give incentives to Galamsey miners or the miners, buy the gold from them, give them land, define area where they can mine, we monitor them, put in measures to monitor their activities, and ensure that they don't mine around river bodies, they don't mine in forest, and and that will contribute to economic development.
Okay, all right. I'll come back to you, but I still have a lot of pushback. But let's let me move on to Ni. Ni, my concern is the externalities are far greater than the benefits associated with mining. You are the maths guy. Tell me that I'm wrong, or if you think there are other ways to address this, then you're more than welcome to express your views on it.
Yeah, thank you. Francis, it's nice to meet you. I agree with most of the points you made there, and we all know that the main issue here is the lack of political will, and it looks like for some reason I just feel the Galamsey thing is it's a political promise the current government made, and they are trying to fulfill. Like, you look at the numbers, they said, I saw a report I think this week. They've given almost 1,500 licenses over the last 8 years, and the last 8 years before that was like close to 60. So it's like, okay, you listen to the report, you read the reports from Professor Frimpong, and he's like, there are people in the government who are actually involved in this and are actually preventing efforts to stop the Galamsey issue. So that is the problem. At the heart of the issue, people who are supposed to enforce the laws are not willing to do that because they are directly benefiting from it. Last week we spoke about all the disadvantages of Galamsey. You're looking at people. They talk about jobs, but they're also forgetting that people are losing jobs that relates to cocoa farming and stuff like that. People are losing jobs that relates to the fishing, and because you are destroying the river, you're destroying it. So you're losing jobs from there. So that alone cancels the job argument. And now you're looking at health effects. The documentary we saw, people are there's a direct link in these communities. People are having a lot of kidney diseases, and you are looking at an effect on our economy, because now cocoa that used to be something we produce a lot, if you are cutting down or you are transforming or making use of this cocoa lands or mining this cocoa lands, meaning that it'll get to a time we cannot produce at the level we used to produce. That goes into our foreign, the foreign exchange. Will get less of it. So again, it goes deeper, and this whole issue affects us than just getting some people employment and stuff like that. So they need to look at the issue very well. But I would say the main issue here is that we are not truthful as a people, right? You see the problem, you know what is causing the problem, but because you are benefiting a little bit from it, it's becoming difficult to deal with it. And the issues that are coming, if we don't take it, as we are, the report said, there will be no water sources in the coming years. Uh, will destroy our cocoa health effects. So can we? I understand that we cannot ban the thing, right? We cannot ban it, but can we, as a people, be truthful, put together measures that can, control it in a way that we can benefit and also reduce the effect of it. But they are using this as a political thing, and I don't get it. I'm like, can we as a people agree that this is wrong, and let's all agree on the solution and solve it. So the banning may be hard, but at this point, I may not be against banning, but I also understand it's not a long-term solution, and we really need to, uh, you know, I don't even think there should be discussions right now because we've passed that stage, right? Now has to be action, and if the action is banning and dealing with or trying to get people to come together and agree on certain things, I think I'm for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Francis, like I believe that these conversations have gone on. Like we've had these talk shops about how to make Galamsey sustainable, right, in the past. And so I was talking to somebody who you also happen to know who has done similar work in the area. And I'm like, look, you guys are massaging the issues. You talk about the deployment of technology, reclamation, and all these methods of making it sustainable. Listen, I'm saying that the expert should tell us what to do, because I think we are beyond the stage of having conversations and taking diverse views on this matter, because I think those conversations have already gone on in the past, and we can simply go and compile the outcome of those conversations and then take next steps to address this issue as quickly as possible. But I'll come back to you on a certain matter, but let me give Fifi the opportunity for his initial comments on this matter.
Thank you,
Okay.
Doc, and good
Yeah.
evening to you, all panelists. Great to have all of you on the show. So this evening we're talking about Galamsey, and this is my third or fourth platform that I've been discussing Galamsey in Ghana on. As we speak, Ghana has to declare a state of emergency, in my opinion, with regards to Galamsey. I don't want to repeat some of the things that Ni have said and some of the things that has been already mentioned to do with Ghana water, the kidney liver diseases, cyanide, mercury seeping through our water bodies, our soil, affecting the agriculture, which is the future of Ghana, which is actually the future of Ghana. Galamsey and gold mining is not the future of Ghana. And the reason why I'm saying that we've been mining for God knows how many years, whether large scale or small scale. And Doc, we have nothing to show for all these tons of goods that have been taken away from our country. So why do we continue? Why do we continue when we look at it holistically? Everybody can tell that the benefit does not actually outweighs the problems that we are having as we speak. No country will actually survive without proper water bodies. We are blessed to have fertile soil and rivers all around us. because of human activities, we have decided to destroy this. And governments have sat down and looked at this happen. Government officials themselves are involved, enriching themselves from this distraction, from this menace. If a critical look is not taken and very heavy-handed measures, we will have no Ghana left.
Okay,
Now,
Fifi, hold it there, and I'll play the minister's response to you, right? And then you can comment on that. But let's hear what the minister has to say.
Samuel Abujinapo has served notice. Apologies for that cut, but moving on, the Lands and Natural Resources Minister Samuel Abujinapo has served notice of a major crackdown on Galamsey hotspots following disruption in supply in the Ashanti and Central regions.
We are going to have the review today, and I'm 1,000% certain, and I can give you the firm assurance that we're going to ramp up our enforcement measures. So all these places you are talking about, we're going to have a cleanup there. We're going to have a complete soup. We're going to send law enforcement agencies to take a soup of that whole stretch. And not just there, so many other places, particularly the central region. We're going to do that. You can be rest assured of that, and you can monitor that. As I say, Operation Halt has never been a continuous operation. It's always been a surgical one. And whenever we find that there's a particular place where there's a rise in illegal mining, or there's a rise in activities and PDT and the rest, we move them in. We're going to conduct the review today, and within the next 24 hours, we're going to find the resources and move them.
All right. So, I mean, if you listen to him there, he mentions the name of a certain operation, and he says it's always been a continuous process. And then whenever there are reports of increased activity in one of those hotspots, they move in and conduct a swoop. I mean, if that was really an effective approach, or if that sort of, ongoing process was producing results, would we be where we are? Is he just providing some half-ass, as Americans would say, or reactionary approach to what the problem is? I mean, he is the minister in charge, but it doesn't seem like he's giving us any concrete steps that the government is taking to address this problem. So, Fifi,
that's
if
correct. The issue we have as a country is we are not proactive. We are very reactive. We sit down and then we wait for the problems to engulf us or to happen. Then we begin to think, how do we deal with it? Listen to a minister. This is a sector minister saying Operation Halt is not continuous thing. Why not? We have been here when the same government that the minister was commenting for came and told that they spent a whopping millions of US dollars to procure drones to ensure that these drones will be used as a surveillance and as a fight against Galamsey. Let's ask them, where are the drones today? What happened to those drones? Where did those money go? We are sleepwalking as a country into a very, very, very dangerous terrain. Look, my honest opinion as we speak is to halt all Galamsey activities. Our chiefs have played part because the land acquisition in Ghana, the law says, even though the land belongs to the natives or the chiefs are the custodians of the land, everything within that land then belongs to the government, which doesn't help. We need to look at these. This is when sometimes I say, fundamentally, we need to go back to the basis when it comes to our legislation. again. Let's look at entire how we legislate some of these things, and then let's find a better approach. So somebody goes to a chief. A chief said, I'm a custodian of the land. I can give the land to you. Then they go and dig. When they dig, the government then have to take the minerals or the resource of the land then belongs to the government. The government is not there to police it. The chief who owns the land then gives the lands out. Government then have to work with the chiefs. Or maybe they have to set up a local government body that could actually help fight some of these things. And I'll give you a small data. In Ghana, we have 288 forest reserves. That in these 288 forest reserves, nobody should set a foot in there to mine. In Professor Frimpong Boateng's report, he actually gave process to some of these mining companies to go into this forest reserve, not to mine, but these are forest reserves. So why have they been given prospecting licenses to even go in there? But they ended up mining whilst they were in there. It's in this report. Out of these 288 that we have actually destroyed 33 already. 33 gone, destroyed. Mining activities within 8 years. So if you take it into account that within 8 years or within 16 years or within 10 years, we can destroy 33 forest reserves out of 288, then we are not far away from not having any forest reserves at all. If we give ourselves the next 30 years, 40 years, and for these activities to carry on.
Yeah. Yes. So, okay. So, Fifi, you make it. You make a very good point there, and I want Francis to come in from there because you mentioned that if this is going to continue, and look, you talk about enforcement and the inability of us to enforce certain laws. I always say that, like, let's not describe a law to exist if that law doesn't come with the ability to be enforced. Right. So the idea that we have laws sitting in our books that are not enforced, I think it's not by chance that they cannot be enforced. It's just that the law itself wasn't crafted in a manner that would make it enforceable. The two, in my opinion, have to go together. That's not really an excuse. The idea, you have laws, but the laws are not the problem, but the enforcement is the problem. So again, are these things enforceable? We know them on paper. We can talk about sustainable mining and all that and write them out nicely in a book. But in practice, given Ghana's situation, can we decide that we are going to regulate galamsey in a way that would give people license and expect them to do the right thing, and it wouldn't degenerate into the condition that we find? As Fifi mentioned, forest registered companies are actually the ones that are mining in forest reserves. The Akonta minings and all those minings. Last week, we looked at the Fourth Estate report, and the Fourth Estate report had various MPP officials, DCEs, right, party executives with registered companies that were mining in forest reserves. So under normal circumstances, these guys are supposed to be the legal ones, right? Yeah. So are we going to be able to enforce it, even if we craft the right legislation and regulation?
Yeah, so I agree with you to a very large extent that a law is as effective as its enforcement. So if you have a law and you are not able to enforce it, then it's not a law, or it's not an effective law. So the law is clear that you cannot mine in a forest reserve. It's very clear. You cannot also mine around a river body. But because of lack of political will, we are not able to enforce the law. So for me, I would say that we are facing a leadership crisis. Leadership crisis. That is the only way I can describe it. It's leadership crisis. If not, the law is clear. Don't mine, in a forest reserve. Don't mine around a water body. But people are mining, and we are even giving license to people to mine in those places. So you cannot blame the law, right? But those who are enforcing the law. And so that's why I think that it is leadership crisis that is causing all of that. So the lack of political will to enforce the law, lack of collaboration between and among government agencies and institutions, like I said earlier, like the EPA, Minerals Commission, Forestry Services Commission, Water Services Commission. They are not working together. They are working separately, and not collaborating to ensure that the laws are enforced. See, that is the problem. So, and let me make a point. So the major distinction between the large-scale mining, or between large-scale mining and small-scale mining, or small-scale artisanal mining, is that, or galamsey, is that, you see, the large-scale mining companies have a defined area that they are mining. They are not allowed to go beyond their concession. Now, and they have tailings dam, so that when they discharge the byproduct, or the water from the mines, they go into that tailings dam. So that's the distinction. But because we're not able to formalize the artisanal small-scale mining sector, they just mine with impunity. They don't have tailings dams. They're not controlled, and so that is how come some of them mine around rivers. Some discharge their products into water bodies and all of that. So that is the challenge. So that's why I think that
is the mining method a problem? Is there sort of a distinction between the methods deployed by small-scale miners and perhaps the large-scale corporate mines?
So let me take you back to history. So during Nkrumah's regime, he said that if any company wanted to mine, they needed to go down, right? Deep shaft mining, underground mining, what we call underground mining.
Yeah.
So under Nkrumah, no company was allowed to do surface mining.
That's what I think should be the approach.
No company was allowed to do surface mining. All the mining companies, were asked to do deep mining, deep shaft mining, or underground mining. But that is not the case now.
So
now we have surface mining.
So dumb, right? How have we become so dumb? Because look at what Nkrumah was thinking.
Yeah,
you understand? I think the surface mining is the problem.
Yes, and the surface mining. Yeah. So now, so at some point we revised the law that was set up during Nkrumah's regime and allowed, because we wanted to, because of liberalization, economic liberalization that were introduced by the World Bank and then the IMF. So we gave that kind of freedom to mining companies to do surface mining. And now, so they destroy, and surface mining, what surface mining does, it destroys they destroy large tracts of land, before they are able to extract the gold. And it will interest you to know that in the Wasa mining enclave, Takwa, Bogosu, those places, about 70% of the lands there have been given to large-scale multinational corporations. 70%.
But they are taken from underground.
No, not underground. They're doing surface mining. They're doing surface mining. So that's why I started by saying that all mining activities, whether small scale or large scale, cause harm to the environment. But the only distinction is that the large scale mining corporations, what they do is that they have tailings dam. They are restricted to their concessions, but they also destroy the lands, right? But they are restricted to their concessions. However, with the artisanal small scale miners, particularly those who are operating illegally, they just mine with impunity. They don't have. So that's why I think that the way forward will be to. So you propose a complete ban of all mining activities, right? So what I think is that if you ban mining activities, at that point, after banning all mining activities, and that's what I thought the government would have done in 2017, after banning all artisanal small-scale mining activities. So after banning that, what you do is now have a national dialogue where you bring all the stakeholders together, and then also make sure that all those that have license, you take back all their licenses and ask people to reapply.
Yes.
At that point, you can now start, managing and controlling the activities of miners.
Yeah.
That's one way to go about it. Also, we need to decentralize the Minerals Commission's operations. So, for instance, if you are in Nandom, where I come from, or you are in Bolga or Nangode or Benduri or wherever you are, and you want to register a small-scale mining activity, you have to go to Accra and register, right? So many people think that the process is very cumbersome. So instead of doing that, why don't I just operate, right? So, and that's responsible for some of these things. So we need to decentralize the operations of the Minerals Commission and empower them, give them the tools. They don't even have enough staff. That's one thing. So how do we expect them to regulate artisanal small-scale mining activities?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, I appreciate your methodical approach, but I still insist that we are beyond that approach, and perhaps, in fact, I would go for all open pit mining. I would say there's no sustainable way of conducting that type of mining. We can come up with various terms related to reclamation and putting the tailings in appropriate places, but I just think long term it's not sustainable. And I think Nkrumah was wise. And
yes,
in fact, there's no dispute that he remains the best president that this country has ever had to even be thinking in this direction, that he remains undefeated, right? But my friend also introduced another issue related to this Galamsey thing. He talked about the demand side of it, that perhaps if we cannot address it from the supply side, why can't we control the demand side? Where is this gold going, right? If we can track it from the supply, the demand side, who is buying the gold, then we can control the source. It's kind of like the diamond situation, right? Where the buyers of the diamond make sure that if there are certain diamonds from some places that cannot be bought, or they cannot enter the market because of this whole idea of blood diamonds, perhaps that should be the approach. But does the gold go through the legal process once it is taken out of the mines? Also, I've heard an allegation about some Chinese boats sitting on our seas and taking all that gold out.
So first of all, the Precious Minerals Marketing Commission was established purposely to buy gold from the artisanal small-scale mining sector. That was the mandate for establishing the Precious Minerals Marketing Commission, right? And so you see that on the one hand, the government claims that the government bans or does not support the activities of Galamsey miners. But on one hand, the Precious Minerals Marketing Commission buys gold from these miners. So it's like government banning something, and then still buying from the same people that putting measures to stop.
So, but,
right? So
but
that's
do I have to be registered to be able to sell my gold, right? So if you walked into any gold buying place, is there a way to track where you got the gold from?
Yes, so the Precious Minerals Commission is tasked to do that. So to buy from legal mining operators, but trust me, they buy from Galamsey miners. Yes, and talking about the Chinese, yes, I've done quite a lot of work on that. In fact, with my interaction with an official at the Minerals Commission some time ago, he revealed to me that some Chinese buy the gold from these, Galamsey miners, artisanal miners, and they use they put their gold in diplomatic bags, and then, once you are a diplomat, you are not. So I'm not by this saying that Chinese diplomat, but I mean this very.
There are ways.
Yes,
in which,
yes, that they put the gold in diplomatic bags, and they're able to exit our ports without being checked.
Yeah. So
this
even the
from
forex benefit that many people say we get from this gold, we are being shortchanged. We don't get it.
We don't.
So, yeah.
We don't.
Yeah.
We don't.
Okay. Right. So Fifi, if you can come in here, because let's conclude on this matter, especially with the demand side. Is that another place of leakage that we need to address?
there is so much to address with regards to demand, and I'm going to quickly show you something.
Okay.
In 2022, the government, this very government of Ghana, controversially introduced the Environmental Protection Mining in Forest Reserve Regulation 2022, and I'm quoting the LI 2462, to provide statutory procedures for mining in forest reserve. So when a government who are supposed to police and ensure that the degradation of the forest stops, the water bodies that is being destroyed and polluted stops, same government goes and introduce a different LI and allow miners to mine in a forest reserve. What is that government doing? And I'll tell you why, Doc. Talking of demands. That was the time that this government has started the gold for oil. When they introduced this gold for oil, they needed more gold to be able to sell this gold to a third party or gives to a third party. A third party goes and sells the gold, bring the money back to them. They get their kickbacks and then use the rest of the money to fund the oil. As we speak, the gold is not working. Why? Because the prices of oil, petrol, diesel is still going through the roof in Ghana. So that has actually pushed the demand of government himself, setting up a board, looking for gold from these Galamsey miners. The government himself are buying this gold. And Bawumia is still in its policy that they are going to make sure they beef up our reserves with so much gold to the point that they will be using gold instead of in his manifesto. He said instead of foreign companies going to change, to take the pressure off the forest, okay, and the foreign currency. What the foreign companies will do is, instead of them looking for millions or billions of pounds of dollars to take as a profit out of the country, he's ready to give them gold. And it's right in his manifesto.
Oh, okay.
He stood on podiums and he has said this. This is the problem. The government himself does not see the problem in the country. So the demand side, the government himself has pushed the appetite up for people to mine.
Yeah.
Same government cannot turn around and say, I'm policing it and I want to stop it, because they don't have any policies to stop it. Rather, the policies is going to encourage people to even mine more, whilst the government is the buyer.
Yeah. Okay. So I know where Fifi is going with this. I know where Fifi is going with this. He is advocating perhaps the solution should be a regime change, because this government has demonstrated that it doesn't have the backbone to address this issue, right? So, but let me give Francis the concluding words, because he has to go right on the hour, and then when we come back, we can address your, if you have any additions to make, and then we can move on to the next topic. But yeah, but Francis, based on the conversation that has gone on, what concluding words do you have regarding this matter?
Yeah, I think I agree with Fifi. We are having leadership crisis. They cannot, the president at some point put his presidency on the line, that if he is not able to deal with the Galamsey crisis, he was going to, he put his presidency on the line, right? But he hasn't been able to do that. But he's still in government. We even gave him another term. And now they want to break the 8. So I think that there's leadership crisis at this point. So we need to find a way of getting a leader who can help address the issue of galamsey. But for me, Fifi also mentioned that we're mining for several centuries, but there's nothing really to show for in terms of economic development. And on top of that, there's pervasive degradation of the environment. I agree with that totally, 100%. But however, we cannot, at this point, we cannot say we are putting a stop to all mining activities. No, if we are putting a stop to artisanal small-scale mining activities, then it means that we have to do the same for large-scale mining activities as well, because we cannot support large-scale mining activities and then neglect artisanal small-scale mining activities. So what we need to do, for me, is a formalizing the sector, because small-scale mining or artisanal small-scale mining is both a complement and a supplement to many other economic activities within the country. And the sector has the potential, like I said at the beginning, to transform and develop rural livelihoods. So we have to find a way of ensuring that miners don't mine around water bodies, they don't mine in the forest, and we make sure we empower our regulatory bodies to enforce all the laws that we've developed to protect the environment and the lives of Ghanaians. That is the way forward, formalization.
Okay. All right. Well, Francis, thanks a lot for.
Quickly, I have a question. Yes. I have a question for our expert panelist before he leaves. I understand his point, but don't you realize that, Francis, when you have a crisis, you need to be able to define that crisis and then find a short-term solution, mid-term solution, and a long-term. And the short-term is to stop all mining activities as we speak, so that the necessary conversation can go on with all various stakeholders for the country to find a better way of dealing with this, please.
Yes, I agree with that. So if we ban all mining activities, that is a short-term measure. So that's why, you remember in my initial conversation, I said banning artisanal small-scale mining activities is a short-term top-down measure. It will work in the short term, but in the long term, it will not work. So, well, in the short term, yes, we can ban mining activities and then have a national dialogue where we'll bring all stakeholders on board, chiefs and opinion leaders, youth groups, women groups, the galamsey miners themselves. In most times, when we are having dialogue, national dialogue, we don't bring the miners on board. They're not involved in the decision-making process. They don't participate in the decision-making process. So we need to bring all of them together, including our National House of Chiefs, including various political parties. All of them, or everyone has to be religious leaders. All of them will have to be brought on board, so that we can have a national dialogue to talk about a long-term solution to the menace. So once we have that, at that point, and we can even take back all licenses that have been issued. We can, get those licenses back from the people. And after the national dialogue, when we have a solution, then we can now say, if you want to mine, there are laws. Register with the appropriate body, which is the Minerals Commission, and mine before you can mine. But we need to also decentralize the Minerals Commission so that they can be in all the areas that we have mining activities, all the districts, so that, people can easily register, go to them, register with them, and operate. We also need to have a monitoring system in place so that when they resume mining, you can easily monitor them. And also, I kept mentioning formalization. Formalization also means that, giving a title, a land to miners to mine. So they have a defined area that they mine. They don't go beyond the defined area. You agree with me that most of the miners, those who are engaged in galamsey activity, they don't use personal protective equipment, PPEs, and other health. They don't at all.
So that's another issue that we don't even want to talk about, right?
Yeah, the hazards and all of that.
The miners themselves.
Yes,
Yeah.
So formalizing the sector will come with all of those things. Okay. So, but banning it completely, completely.
Yeah.
It will not be the solution to go. Yeah.
All right. Well,
thank you very much.
Okay. Well, that would be my approach. But anyway, so Francis, thanks a lot for joining us today. we hope to get you on here.
But before Francis go, do you think banning the surface one, do you think it's sustainable?
Yeah, it's sustainable. So, for instance, the large-scale mining sector, they want to mine, they want the gold, right? China is in high demand for gold. Many countries are looking for minerals. So, what we can do is to formulate a law that says that if you want a mining concession, you have to go down, like in Nkrumah dates. You have to do deep shaft mining or underground mining. Without that, we won't allow.
I think that should be the ultimate solution, right?
Yes,
and that way, effectively, you do away with all the illegal galamseyers, right?
Yes.
And I had this conversation with a friend, and I said, if we use the method approach, then by default you are eliminating some of these other problems that we just spoke about. Because really, open pit mining, I just don't see how that is going to be sustainable. Anyway, so Francis, thanks a lot. And we have a couple of political issues to discuss here, and then we'll go on to that. And then, since you are not willing to be a politician, we would would excuse you.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right. Okay. Bye. Yeah. All right. So, did you have anything to add to this conversation? Otherwise, we just jump onto some of the trending issues that have come up in the. So, but in the political space this week, we saw the various political candidates, be it the presidential candidates and the the parliamentary candidates, pick up nominations and submit them to the various EC departments. And so it looks like we are ready for the election, basically. But on the campaign trail, something that caught the eye of social media was a certain MP aspirant who went on a campaign trail making some promises that everyone would agree that is obscene, and in fact, very audacious of him to actually come out publicly and promise such to his constituents. Let me play the video, and then we will talk about this particular politician, but we'll also talk about the political rhetoric and the promises that especially members of parliaments give to their electorates when they are seeking to go to a place where the goal is to formulate laws, very good ones for that matter, for our country.
Ghana, now uko Australia, ubetina aeroplane 18 hours. And nukrano, nipabi etumi di mechi yako. World Cup eba, ayeba bebo afifufra ayeba be uremui. Ye bebo no ewa America. And no 7 hours spend away to America. Nanadum. Semu pese mu manumu enko America no munko bobra na sike bi emrefia to abane mame uye bebuno ewa paso uye bebuno ewa desase uye bebuno ewa Newtown na pese utukwa me pious me be ye we empia me di ube tukwa me di ube ko na me no me ti se ampem na yamawa kwenya na wodi usako se udemrefem na eduma na yedi ase usase bu anepa no ontumi ho ano twi na obi foforo so embe ya usimi twi konongo kaya mintesa entime no uye bebu no na opese utukwan uko Germany uko America uko UK uko France bebi a opese ubeko bia no ubu amia misumi nya akwanya misumi mebuao.
Okay, now I think this conversation has often gone on. We talk about the expectations of our electorates, particularly our MPs. And there's always this conversation that MPs go to parliament to enact laws. And so the demands that our electorates are making of them are unrealistic and, in fact, unfair to them, given that they are not giving any money to support their constituents financially, to pay school fees. But we've seen this rhetoric of various MP candidates making promises to, in fact, the electorates generally are people who, in my opinion, don't really understand the democracy that we are practicing. They don't really understand the roles of the various agents of democracy, particularly the difference between an MP and a minister and other political officials. They probably cannot distinguish between their various roles. But we have MP aspirants going to make promises such as this. In fact, the guy is actually admonishing his opponent that he is not like him to squander chances, opportunities to take constituents abroad when it avails itself. And that if he is voted into power, the upcoming World Cup, which is going to take place in the United States, he will make sure that he takes some of his constituents along. I mean, we are not picking on this particular minister, but he opens the door for this broader conversation about the promises that MPs are making, aspirants are making out there. And that, in my opinion, is misinforming electorates and, in fact, making our democracy very difficult to practice. So, come in on this, and then I'll move on to Fifi.
Yeah, sometimes I feel our people again don't understand the kind of democracy we are trying to practice, but also some of the fault has to come from these politicians who they promise things that they know are not in their power to do, right? So maybe you can say they are also part of the problem where people don't really know what the powers they
I would say they are the main problem, because look, democracy is not organic to us.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Majority of Ghanaians are not, maybe until recently, I don't know what the literacy rate is, but at the time we sent around the 1992 constitutions and conducted a referendum for its confirmation, I would say 70% of that country didn't really understand what they were voting for. And I think it's incumbent upon our leaders to, over the years, educate the general electorate on the system of government that we are practicing and what they should be expecting from the various agents of the government. So, in fact, I think the blame squarely lies at their footstep, that the electorates are responding the way they are responding, and the demands and demanding the things that they are demanding.
And another, some of the things he said, we could extrapolate and say he's actually saying, this guy is not corrupt, I'm going to be corrupt.
Exactly.
And vote for me, and I'll do what I have to do so that we can all benefit. That's basically what he's saying. And you look at our issues in Ghana, it's not about lack of resources. It's not that the youth is not intelligent, or we are not hardworking enough, or Ghanaians are not hardworking enough. It's just that people who have been given the power have chosen to be corrupt, and because of that, the resources are not being used for what it's supposed to do. So the Ghanaians also find ways and means to survive. That also get them corrupt, and the cycle continues, right? So the corruption is impacting everybody, and instead of us trying to make sure we reduce this act, is rather saying, vote for me and I will be corrupt, because there's no way you have anything to do with traveling to any country, right? So it means that if you are going to really fulfill this promise, you have to do something that is not right, something that involves some corrupt practices, taking people who are not journalists to events, and that is not right, and we have to frown upon that. But maybe that's their strategy, that's their something they've realized it could work in that constituency, and they are doing it. So again, we are a reflection of our leaders. So to be frank, I don't know who to blame here, whether we have allowed ourselves for these politicians to use us in these ways, or the politicians are liable here. And to be frank, if you ask me to choose, I'll say we've created that problem. We've allowed them to continue lying to us, allow them to be doing whatever they are doing, and there's no, there's really no consequences, because at the end of the day, we keep voting for these two parties, NDC and NPP, and nobody. How many people has actually been held accountable, by they doing something wrong? And I mean, when I'm talking about this politician, they do something wrong, the law hold them accountable. The frequency of that is very small, and so it's like, okay, everybody's acting with impunity, and that's the order of the day. So it's sad, but we have to know that the kind of democracy we are practicing, today we are using the word sustainable a lot. So the kind of democracy we are practicing may not be sustainable.
Yeah. Well, the environmental field has co-opted and basically taken ownership of the name sustainable, but it can be applied to anything, including our democracy. But I mean, Fifi, Ni introduced the issue of accountability, and our inability to hold public officials accountable, in my opinion, has emboldened them to even be more shameless in the things that they do. This guy here was a deputy minister of youth and sports. And if you recall, there was a scandal that hung on his neck when he was the deputy minister. He was alleged to have taken some individuals to Australia. People who weren't supposed to be part of the trip were included and taken to Australia, and it became a scandal. He was investigated and cleared of any wrongdoing. But is he confirming that he actually did what he was accused of doing? Because, I mean, I think he's been emboldened. He got away with it the first time. Now he's confessing to the crime in the public square.
That's correct, Doc. It's sad. And I believe Nana Akufo-Addo and the MPP was set and watched this video and tell themselves how bad they are as a political party. Pius, who was heavily involved with this Australia visa scandal, diplomatically disgraced Ghana. When this case was brought before the president, Pius was cleared, as the clearing agent always does. He has always cleared any minister or deputy minister in his government find of doing something wrong. Only for Pius to go and stand on a platform and confirm that, look, even though the presidents have found no fault, I'm the one who did it. And I did it because even when it was 11, 12 hours, I put people on a plane there. So 6 hours down the road, I could do twice as much. For that reason.
Oh, okay. I didn't quite get that angle, to be honest with you. Oh my, okay. Yeah, I didn't get the point in stating that Australia is, several miles of air travel away. Okay.
That's correct. That was what Pius was trying to tell the audience and the entire Ghanaians. That Australia, which was 12 hours or 11 hours from Ghana, I did it. For that reason, I have a proven track record of being corrupt and doing a visa correction. For that reason, vote for me. United States is just 6 hours. I could do twice as much. In other words,
even though that is not true, but yes.
So Pius was standing on that podium telling people how corrupt he is, and he will get away with it. Okay. Another message that came from that speech is to tell all Ghanaians that we, the politicians, or we, the MPP, or Pius, I cannot fix this community. I cannot create any enabling environment for your young ones to thrive on. For that reason, the only thing I could do is to help you in a corrupt means get away from here and leave the shores of Ghana. because we have given up. We can't face Ghana. That is another angle. And Doc Eni, is it not sad for a politician who is meant to go into office, or an MP, to help create enabling environment and build Ghana, rather tell the youth, I'll help you leave the shores because I can't actually face Ghana? That politician straight away should be disqualified. The people have to vote against that politician straight away. But you know what? You made a statement that the society that actually produce these politicians are part of us. So maybe we might have to holistically look at our society and ask ourselves, maybe we have a very corrupt society as Ghanaians.
Okay.
And that is where we need to start the homework.
Yes.
By changing our thinking.
Yes.
Changing our minds.
Usually when it comes to that question of whether it is the society that is giving us the leaders we have, or it's the leaders that is giving us the society that we have, I don't think it's the chicken of the or the chicken or the egg situation. I think this is I don't want to call it a dilemma, because I think it has been solved. If you read Asian scholars, these are things that they have written about the nature and the need for government. It is founded on the idea that by default, you may have to just take everyone as corrupt or as a degenerate, even though that may not be the case. And so we form a government with the objective of sort of providing some feedback, automatic feedbacks within the system that would keep individuals honest. Now, the problem is that the beginning, you have to get it right. You have to get the right leaders who put those mechanisms in place to check every other person. But if you don't get the beginning right, then it's like you created a sham government that really doesn't do what the purpose of government is. So for once, I always say the buck stops with the leaders. I put the blame squarely on the leaders, because they are the ones that are supposed to produce the systems that would put everyone else in check. So I think, in my opinion, when I have conversations about this, I am reluctant to blame the ordinary person, because I think that's the default situation. And so if we don't put the blame on government, then we are really absolving the leaders of what they should be doing as a government. So, yeah, but I mean, I guess there's that element of blaming the general populace for not holding them accountable. But I think we need to get the top right. Once we get the top right, the values have to be instilled. Another dimension is instilling the civic culture that would grow an honest society. Listen, our colleges, you go to university these days, plagiarism is almost like every student's right. Some students feel the right to copy. So how are you supposed to produce an honest leader when these guys are on campus copying from their friends, having people write their master's dissertations for them, write their long essays for them? How are you going to produce an honest society from that? So that is where I would say some of the blame that should be given to maybe the society in general comes from the fact that our educational system is broken down. People are not instilled with the right values that will make them well-meaning members of the society. But again, I think it comes from the top. We have to crack the whip from the top all the way down. The universities have to change the way they conduct, college education in Ghana. It's breeding corruption, honestly speaking. When we were in those colleges, when we were in Legon, they had SRCs, right? And these SRCs were guys that behaved like the current leaders that we have. They were corrupt. They were taking the students' facility user fees. They would say they are organizing hall weeks, and that was an avenue for them to steal money. These are the same guys that we find in national politics today. They use the SRCs in our universities to practice corruption, and the university system allows that to happen. You can't find that in this part of the world. So, yes, if we want to spread the blame, I think it's institutional. I wouldn't put the blame on the ordinary person. I'll put them on every institution. The other day, we had this conversation about the police service with my friends on our social media platform. I told them that, look, corruption is baked into the system of policing in Ghana, right? The bad and the good are all accepted in the Ghana police service. And in equal measure, one doesn't outweigh the other. If you look at the way the police institution operates in Ghana, the good and the bad are equal constituents of that system. One is not necessarily preferred over the other. They all function in a very mysterious way, in harmony. So unless we are able to create a system that is able to say we are only choosing the good, but the bad cannot be a part of this system, and that when it happens, we consider it as an aberration and an outlier, which should be gotten rid of, but not to be accepted, then we're not going to have an honest system in Ghana. So, I mean, that's my opinion on this subject matter, just speaking broadly about the way government functions in our country. But ultimately, it starts with the guy at the top. He is the one who is supposed to ensure that it trickles down to the very last person on the ground, right? Yeah, so, but, well, the next thing that I wanted to talk about, I mean, and you are on the highways of the social media. I hear Samoa has pulled out of the MPP campaign. I don't know what you are hearing on those streets, but Black Rasta has a position. He says he was promised $3 million and that money never came, and that's why he pulled out. What are you hearing?
Yeah, I've not followed the issue, but from what I'm seeing, it's like, some money issues, and he ended up saying he doesn't want to be associated with. He was going around doing this African, is it youth in games idea, and also you could say it's also some kind of campaign for the vice president, because Asamajan was part of the Baumia's committee, right? So the idea was to use whatever he's doing to help the campaign. But I don't know what's going on. It looks like there's some money issues, and he said he doesn't want to be associated with that again. And it's sad. Am I surprised? No. Am I surprised there's corruption going on that he feels so uncomfortable with? No, because this is what this.
No, but it seems like he is supposed to be a party to the corruption, and then he didn't get his cut, and then he because these are all allegations. I would have imagined that Samoa has made enough money that he wouldn't be interested in any corrupt money, but apparently he was promised an amount which hasn't been delivered, and so that's the reason.
That's the point, right? I'm not surprised that there's corruption going on. That's the word here. Whoever is a party to that, I don't know, but it looks like there's something not right going on, and that's what causing the issue. But again, it comes to the point. We have a lot of problems right now. Recently, they said we don't even have good stadiums that can host African game, and you look at it, you're like, all this money is being spent. They said they built whatever
AstroTurfs
and all that. They said we know they've borrowed more than any government, right? You do all this, they've received more than any government. You look at all this, and really Ghana will have to play a game outside the country for
it's a shame.
It's a disgrace, right? And that's the issue, right? We talk about corruption, why we need to frown on this, because it's depriving everybody of a decent of imagine me telling somebody that Ghana has to play a soccer game outside Ghana that has to be played in the country.
As punishment, we should be made to play them in Nigeria.
Oh yes, and it's
We are
already.
home market in Nigeria. That should be the
Oh
final.
yes, the Nigerians said they will support.
Yes.
They will support the opponent.
Of course. That's the reason why we ask it as
They
punishment.
will support the opponent, and before the match, all Ghanaians will have to say Nigerian jollof is the best. So the banter is already coming. But on the more serious note, if they really allow that to go forward to happen, that Ghana plays this game outside Ghana, then the whole government should be ashamed of themselves, because they said they spent how much, like almost $200 million on that African Games, and you spend money on that Legon Stadium, and you spend all that money on that, and that stadium is still not a calf level. Then what did you do? This is just 6 months ago.
Yeah.
What did you do?
Yeah.
If the stadium is not at a level calf will approve, then I don't understand what they did. So it's I hear, I'm like, what is going on? And it's like nothing is making sense anymore.
I mean, isn't it a shame that Ghana considers itself as a powerhouse of African football?
Yes.
And then you have the African Federation coming out and saying that you don't have a pitch that is good enough to play an African game. I mean, how shameful can it get more than
But
this?
I just want to understand. So that Legon field, why is it not going to qualify? What did they do, or what level does the pitch have to? Because this is just 6 months ago, right?
But
That
it's,
we
not,
go.
it's very. I mean, the reality is not in good condition. They probably haven't maintained it. So,
My God.
I mean, yeah, but it's a shame. But I mean, Fifi, talking about corruption. Look, when I was when we were in Legon, I was in Commonwealth Hall, and all boys, we used to have these huge arguments. One morning on my block, there was an argument, and the argument was comparing. Then I think it was President Kufuor at the time, right? And the guys were arguing that, would you rather be a Michael Essien or President Kufuor, right? And the guys were like, Essien is bigger than Kufuor at the time. This when Essien had just gone to Chelsea. And some guy entered the argument and said, look, even Asamoah Gyan self, even if he would be Asamoah Gyan rather than President Kufuor, he would take it because Asamoah Gyan is even bigger than Kufuor. I mean, these are just frivolous boys' arguments. But to think that an individual that was held in such a high esteem and being put on the same pedestal or even higher than a certain president, and of course, a president who is revered in the MPP, considered as one of their best, to sink so low at this point that he joined a campaign because of money, and that because the money hasn't been delivered. I mean, what are we teaching the young people, actually? You achieved as a footballer. I mean, over to you, Fee.
Thank you, Doc. It's sad, and it's part of the Ghanaian story at the moment. To deal with this government for the past nearly 8 years, I've said this in different platforms. Everything that they touch tend to dust. Everything that we do not get. The country does not benefit from it. They've spent whopping amount of money quoted to Ghanaians that these have been used to fix stadiums. AstroTurf, one of those governments that have criticized the NDC government that when they came into power, there were only limited AstroTurfs, and they've built quadruple it or built even way more than that, and they sing praises on it. And there's always been that argument that these stadiums and the AstroTurfs that you guys think you've done is not measured to the international standard. And I'm happy that this argument has been settled, because they start something, they get the foundations wrong, and they build on the wrong foundation. And we've always said this, Doc. Today, let's look at Asamoah Gyan. And to me, the statement, his Twitter or his X statement, is what is very important, which I'll quote. I haven't been fair to the youth and the people of Ghana. This is his first statement or first sentence. Very powerful. There is something called pillow talks. You take decisions, you go back to bed, and sometimes you come back and say, look, this decision is wrong. For that reason, I'll reverse it. Asamoah Gyan is mature man, professional footballer. So I believe he's got a team around him. I believe before Asamoah Gyan takes any decision, a lot of thinking will go into it. I normally say to many of my friends, when I start something, I don't fail. Because even if it has to take me 3 years to think it through properly, I'll do that before I start. That is one of the reasons that this country, Ghana, keep retrogressing, because we take decisions, we walk into things without properly considering what we are walking into. So for Asamoah Gyan to come back and tell us that he hasn't been fair to the youth and the people of Ghana, which means circle the word fairness there. Your decision is your decision. Whether you join MPP, NDC, that is fair enough. But the word fairness there tells us that there was a corrupt means or corrupt way
Intent.
for him to enrich himself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he has realized that it's not fair on the people and the youth of Ghana. Whether he's been cheated, the money that was not forthcoming, or he decided that, hold it, I don't want to benefit from the Ghanaian children that I drive my expensive car and I see them walking on the streets, barefooted, no food, tattered clothing, and sometimes difficult for them to even have a shelter. For me to allegedly benefit from this 3 million or 30 million US dollars, however is being quoted out there, I think it's unfair. And for that reason, I don't want to be part of this. I would say it's a good decision. It's a very good decision by him. But if it is not a decision that has come from a place of a good heart, but rather he's been cheated, for that reason he's pulled out, and he's using the word fairness in a very wrong context, then I will leave that to his own conscience. But this serves all of us as stakeholders of Ghana. It will give us a lesson that before we go or walk into anything, whether we're going to benefit from it or we are not going to benefit from it, we're doing it wholeheartedly for the country that we all love. Let's think properly. Let's ensure, first of all, let's ask the necessary question. Ghanaians normally ask, what is in it for me? But don't do that. Rather ask, what will it benefit Ghana? The first question should be, who will it benefit? Is the country going to benefit from this? Can I add substance to this to improve the lives of Ghanaians? And I believe if Asamoah Gyan had asked those questions, he wouldn't have put his gear on the reverse as we speak and we talk about him today. Thank you, Doc.
Okay. All right. So look, I would bring the draw the curtains here. And I think there are some important messages that we have learned today. And I mean, and coming from you, Fifi, you talk about the collective benefit. We should always ask that question, not what is in it for us as individuals. And that's very poignant on your part. And also, you, okay, let's see what's on our screen here. Charlie Baumia is really campaigning. Is that from our producer? Okay, but anyway,
yeah, I think that it's our producer who brought that on, because it's part of what is in it for me when Oketeche Eprifa was as a broadcaster campaigning or doing Baumia's bidding. So these are some of the things.
Okay. I didn't get the context. Yes, but
Tell a story.
but ultimately is the collective benefit that we all should be concerned about. Look, politicians are not going to distribute things that would be enough to satisfy all of us. But if they do their work right, the enabling condition would exist for us to work and flourish as individuals. Those who want to explore the length and breadth of their intellectual capacity, the necessary environment should be available for them to do so. The only option shouldn't be to travel outside the country to realize your intellectual potential, right? Those who want to work and enrich themselves and get all the material things that exist in this world, the enabling environment should exist. So we should be asking politicians what is in it for us in this context, but not in the individual small benefits. And in fact, that's a very important point to make. And also, you talk about Galamsey, and that Galamsey is not the future of Ghana, right? We've seen the damage, the externalities associated with Galamsey. I mean, Francis described it as a poverty activity. But if we are not careful, it's going to exacerbate poverty because of it's destroyed people's farms and other livelihood sources, right? And we know that the Galamsey kingpins are sitting in Accra and Kumasi and sending people's children to die in pits. It's not elevating people out of poverty. The guys who are digging over there are not going to come out of poverty. Those being enriched don't go to those sites. So I don't think Galamsey is the future of our country. We can end all surface mining and still flourish as a country. In fact, that's the only way we can flourish. If we go down this path, we're going to destroy our entire livelihoods, right? And I mean, and you mentioned accountability, right? How are we going to hold our politicians accountable? How are electors supposed to understand that it is their responsibility to hold politicians accountable? And in fact, I think I enjoyed today's conversation, and as usual, we have lively conversations. And next week we are hoping to get the NDC spokesperson, one of the spokespeople for the economy, a young lady, and I have another expert who understands the digital space and the potential for job creation in that area in Ghana. We want to actually, interrogate that aspect of the various manifestos, right? They both promise digital jobs for the young people. We have the youth, the spokesperson in charge of youth-related employment for NDC manifesto, and then we have an expert on the digital employment space, and we would interrogate those issues next week. So I appreciate you guys, my panelists, and also our viewers. And until this time again next week, I would say enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Yeah. Nice to meet you, Fifi. Yeah.
All right.
Pleasure as always. Thank you.
All right.
You let it yum, 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 yum. My tina yela pese.